Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about our top 24 Dynasty running back rankings with tiers. And with us is a special guest making his first appearance on Front Office Pros, which is none other than Mike at NerdBoi Takes, who is the founder of Dynasty Degens. Mike, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm excited to talk running backs, and we talked quite a little bit about backstage, just all things, everything, actually. So that was fun to get to know you guys a little bit, and I'm excited to talk some ball.
Hike!
So we're going to go with 5 tiers. Again, we're going to be talking about top 24s. We're going to each go through who we have in tier 5. So, Joe, why don't you start us off? Who do you got in tier 5?
Yeah, in tier 5, so starting at the bottom at the 24 spot, I've got running back Austin Eckler. 23, going with Aaron Jones. 22, Joe Mixon. 21, Nick Chubb. And at number 20, Tajay Spears.
All right, Mike, so who do you got for your tier 5 running backs?
So I'm going Joe Mixon, Jaylen Warren, Tony Pollard, and Kamara.
Very interesting, guys. We're going to have a lot to talk about here in this tier 5. I got 4 guys. I got Brian Robinson at 24, Tony Pollard at 23, Aaron Jones at 22, and Derrick Henry at 21. Interesting on my board here, I don't have, and I'm giving a little spoiler here, I have no Eckler or Mixon or Chubb in my top 24. I don't know if you have any of those guys either there, Mike.
I had Mixon at 24. So I got Mixon over there. He's one of those guys that's not going to go away, man. You want him to go away? You kind of like anybody that's holding Chase Brown bags or like, Mixon, it's your time. Please get out of here. But I think Mixon's here to stay for the next at least 2 years. Like
really?
In some capacity, yeah, I think so. Because even if he leaves like over there and he falls into another situation, I think he's still going to be like one of those goal line backs that does okay and falls into the end zone and breaks off like a decent run. I don't know, man. I just think Mixon he's not anything special anymore, but he's still going to be here. And I think he's still going to be serviceable, like as a flex position.
I'm assuming you think so as well, Joe?
Yeah, I know you think, like, Steve, he's potentially, not even going to be playing for a team. I disagree with you there. Like, he's shown, he's not the most efficient player, doesn't break off the big runs, but he's been getting the volume. He still, catches the ball, and he's been getting the goal line touches and getting the touchdowns to, stay relevant, to Mike's point.
I mean, he's got 1 year left on the deal, and he's only an $8.8 million cap hit. So you could say that he's there to stay another year. I don't think 2 years, there's no way. I wouldn't be surprised if they were to cut him. I don't know if he'd find another home, to be honest with you. That's why I don't have him in top 24.
If they cut him, he'll find another home.
I don't know why you guys feel that confident about that.
Because teams need running backs. I mean, he wouldn't be the number one, but I mean, he'd be on a team and utilized in some capacity. I mean, even Zeke was able to find the Patriots and had some relevance even.
I just think that we are I don't know, we're just overestimating the running back landscape in general. Like, I think we're going to see maybe 3 to 4 guys come in and be decent, but we still saw almost all the running backs besides Bijan and Gibbs play like a secondary role to veteran guys this year. And I think that's going to be the case this following year too. I think Mixon is still going to be the lead back in Cincinnati, and I think Chase Brown's going to be a complimentary back. I mean, he's somebody that catches passes a little bit, but Mixon catches a lot of passes, man. And I think that's going to be a value to somebody. If he's not staying there, he's going to go somewhere else. And there's no workhorse role anymore in the NFL. There is multiple backs in every backfield, and nobody's getting 35 carries a game anymore. So He's going somewhere if he's not staying.
I just don't think he's a model citizen. No offense to him or anything, but I just don't know if there would be a lot of locker rooms that want to bring him in. That's just, there have been many run-ins that could have caused him to not be there. And there was much speculation last year that was going to happen, and it didn't happen. So
I know. I hear you on that, but I think the NFL cares way less about that than we do. So
fair enough.
They
Fair
focus
enough.
on the play on the field, Steve.
Yeah. So how about play on the field as far as Nick Chubb goes? I mean, obviously he was a guy who people would have had highly ranked. I didn't have him in top 24. Did you have him in your top 24, Mike?
I didn't put him up there because overall dynasty rankings, I just can't do it because I don't know if he's going to see the field until like week 9-ish, week 8, 9 this year. Considering that was a later, well, not later, but like the significance of that injury. And then we always say a running back coming off of that type of injury might need a year to just really like get his sea legs back. And at his age, like needing another year to like really get back to the Nick Chubb that he was, like age was going to get him in 2 years anyway. Like, how am I going to already like have him still as a higher ranked dynasty asset when I just can't trust him this year? Like, and then next year he's already going to be what, age 28? I don't know. It just feels like I think he could come back and be pretty productive, but his long-term outlook, I don't feel good about.
You feel he can make a recovery from that injury, Joe? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, it's definitely going to be a long road back. I mean, it's it was a brutal injury. It's going to be a tough recovery process for him. But I just think if he's, even if it's like midway through the year and produces for the second half, like his talent and stuff, and feel like his utilization will still be there.
Yeah, he'd be an interesting guy to try to acquire because of I think I agree with Mike. I think his injury is pretty gruesome, and I don't have him in top 24 because I don't know what kind of Nick Chubb will we see. If he was going to be back on the Browns, I don't even know. So to me, I just have concerns about him long term. As far as some of your picks, Mike, so I did not. Now you're talking to the Jaylen Warren fan club over there with Joe. I did not have him in my top 24. Did you have him in your top 24, Joe?
No. Nope, I did not.
That surprises me. You're part of the fan club, so you're feeling. This is maybe a little bit of a spoiler. Do you have Najee in the top 24, Mike?
I do. Yeah,
okay.
I have both of these guys at the back end of the 24. I think there is a real possibility of having two top 24 producers on this team, and this is with the mentality of a dynasty outlook of possibly Warren being on a different team next year. Like we maybe looking at him as like a late bloomer, like an Eckler type guy that could fall into a pretty favorable situation next year. Maybe, but I think as it stands, like these two guys can produce. They can both be like, 800 to 900 yard producers, with upwards of 7 to 8 touchdowns, which like is a decent RB2. Like you might be able to play these guys every week. Like I think there was a point in time last year where I was actually playing Najee and Warren in lineups, which wasn't great. I didn't feel good about it, but sometimes it rewarded me. So yeah. And I think with Arthur Smith going there, there's just going to be a lot of running with a most likely a rookie QB or somebody that is a game manager at best, I think, is what they're looking at over there. So,
yeah, I agree. I just find usually in the Warren Najee discussion, it's like your team Warren or your team Najee. Not usually it's both. At least the conversation between Joe and I. So I was curious as to what your thoughts were there. Real quick, you guys both will not have Brian Robinson top 24, right?
I don't have Brian Robinson in my top 24 because, man, it's really like all of the running back shows that I did last year at this time were like obsolete because of all of the the bombs in the draft and the movement and everything. And, it's tough, man, but I can't really picture Brian Robinson not getting some competition in that backfield in some shape, in some way. Like, I think maybe he might be the guy to start the season, but I don't know if he's going to be the guy to end the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That was my big. I have him in there because I think because of the vacancy of Antonio Gibson no longer probably being with the team, I think he could get more opportunities. It's not the best running back class, so do they bring a possible other veteran in? Time will tell. But I think he was more productive than I anticipated this season. I thought Gibson was going to go take the league by storm, and boy, was I wrong about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't the only one thinking Gibson was going to do it. I mean, I was victim of that as well, but I'm sure many others as well.
All right, so heading over to Tier 4, Joe, who do you got in your Tier 4?
In my Tier 4 at 19, I've got Kamara. 18, Ramondre Stevenson. 17, I've got Najee Harris. 16, Isaiah Pacheco. And at 15, Josh Jacobs.
All right, Mike, who do we got?
Nice. So, yeah, I went Najee Harris. I have DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, and Tajay Spears in this little tier right here.
Okay, I got number 20. I got running back Tajay Spears. 19, running back Alvin Kamara. 18, running back Dave Montgomery. 17, running back Isaiah Pacheco. 16, running back Ramondre Stevenson. And then number 15, running back Najee Harris. I am the highest on Najee Harris. Probably no surprise to you, Joe, that I'm as high as Najee. Now, I did think was interesting, Mike, you have Swift in your top 24 pretty high. I did not have Swift in there. Did you have Swift in your top 24, Joe?
I did not end up having him there, no.
And my main concern for him is he's a free agent in a very big free agent class. So where is he going to go? Now, if he goes back to Philly, maybe you feel a little more confident. So obviously you have him, obviously pretty high or compared to Joe and I. What are your thoughts there on Swift?
I've always liked Swift as the talent. I think Swift, the usage was never like my favorite as far as the way that he was used in Detroit, and it was frustrating to own him for quite a while there. But ultimately, I think, he is the talent, and I bank on the talent. And this is why it's tough to really go into the running backs in detail, because we don't know where these guys go. But I think ultimately, I can't put him off of this list. If he does go back to Philly, obviously a great spot. But also, we have a guy that just does tush pushes and takes away any, chance of him getting, goal line work, which is, but like I said, it's the talent that I want to go on. And I think Swift is still only 23 years old. I feel like he's been in the league for 5 years and he's still 23, 24 years old. So I think in Dynasty, you got to go with him. I know that he has the injury concerns, but he looked good this year, and the upside is what I can't quit on DeAndre Swift. So I can't necessarily throw him out of the top 24 if he's capable of putting up top 12 numbers,
Joe, why didn't you put DeAndre Swift in your top 24? You heard my logic. I think it's probably going to be similar.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it for me was just not knowing where he was going to end up. I mean, if he's going to remain in Philly, he's definitely for sure in the top 24 on my list. But because I think, obviously playing against behind an offensive line like Philly, he showed what he could do with a good offensive line in front of him, and had a really good year. Just that unknown for me for whether or not he's going to return to Philly or what team he's going to go to ultimately was why I have him off.
Now, I think I heard, Joe, you mentioned Pacheco. I mentioned Pacheco. I believe is Pacheco still to come for you, Mike, or is he down in your top 24?
Yeah, no, Pacheco's up there for me. So
okay, so yet to be announced. Okay,
we're gonna see him soon for sure.
Okay, what about David Montgomery for you guys? Did either of you have David Montgomery in there, or is that to come as well?
I left David Montgomery off of the list
Ooh,
because
interesting.
although I like him, he's productive. Man, I think Gibbs does take on a larger role this year. I think he's going to get the larger role to begin the season. I think Montgomery probably gets his usage eaten up a little bit. I'm not sure what we see from that team this year. I don't know if it's going to evolve a little bit. But I don't feel good about David Montgomery putting up the same numbers he put up last year.
Joe, do you feel similar to Mike here?
Well, I've got Montgomery on my list. He's yet to come for me.
Okay. So there's a disagreement here on Montgomery between you two. I like him. I mean, he's 18. He's 26. He'll be 27 years old though. So I mean, to Mike's point, I mean, the thing is with running backs, and this is the predicament of going through dynasty tiers at this time because the free agency classes. I mean, what's going to happen with the Chargers backfield? I don't think Eckler's coming back. Do they bring in a guy like Blake Corum that was with Harbaugh in Michigan? Who does Saquon go there? I mean, whoever goes to that LA spot is going to be a dream spot. So it's like we don't know where a lot of these running backs are going to go, what makes it challenging. Because I think landing spot. I mean, I maybe Joe, you and I agree on this. I think we emphasize landing spot a little bit more than most, but I do think, especially for running backs, it's super important.
Yeah, for a running back, I think landing spot is everything because you see guys like Pacheco and Kyron Williams where they're like good, like, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, like decent tape, but you know, like if like a Kenneth Walker landed in Pacheco's role, like my God, he'd be RB1 in Dynasty, like without a doubt. But you see like a Pacheco who is a bulldozer, but doesn't possess like the pocket awareness or the elite skill sets that we look for in running backs. He's just like get the ball and run like as fast as you can and with your arms everywhere kind of guy, which is fine. But like, he's not making the cuts or looking at the pocket the way that a Kenneth Walker or, a Bijan Robinson looks at it. So yeah, these guys are already ranked like almost higher than somebody that has twice the talent they have based off of just being in the great scheme and the good offense that is going to make sure that they get the usage that they need to be a talented and productive dynasty running back.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely on that. So let's head over to tier 3, guys. Joe, who do you got?
Yep. So at number 14, I've got the aforementioned David Montgomery, Steve. 13, I'm going with Javonte Williams. 12, Kenneth Walker. 11, Rashad White. And at 10, Travis Etienne.
Okay, Mike, what do you got?
16, I have Javonte Williams. 15, Josh Jacobs. 14 is that man, Isaiah Pacheco. 13 is Ramondre Stevenson. And then 12 is Kyron Williams.
Wow, this is an interesting group, let me tell you. At number 14, I've got running back Devon Achane. Number 13, I got running back James Cook. Number 12, running back Rashad White. Number 11, running back Kenneth Walker. And number 10, running back Kyron Williams. So this is definitely an interesting group. We definitely have some differences here. I believe, is Achane still to come for both of you? That's a spoiler a little bit, but... Or then is he not in the top 24? I'd be quite shocked.
Yeah, I haven't touched on him yet. He's up there.
He's yet to come for me too, Steve.
Oh, okay. So I'm lower than you guys are when it comes to him. So it sounds like you had Ramondre Stevenson pretty high, Mike. But you and I both agreed on Kyron Williams, which I didn't know where you said. He's the toughest one in my view. Depending on people will probably have him really, really high because of what he did, and I understand it. But to me, he led the league with 82% snap share, and that benefited him greatly, as well as Rashad White. He had a huge snap share percentage as well. He's got 2 years left on his rookie deal. I don't think it's out of the question that they bring another running back in for the Rams. I didn't think that Cam Akers was the guy during the offseason. I was like, you got to fade this guy. I didn't think Kyron Williams would become what he became, though. I'll say that. So, Mike, it seems like you're pretty similar with me. I think Joe has yet to, if my memory serves me right, Joe has not yet said Kyron Williams. So are you on the same wavelength as me?
Yeah. So with Kyron, I like the talent. I think that, you know what I mean? Like he falls into a tier where I could be way too low on them, but also it's really hard to trust a Sean McVay running back. Like year to year, you can't trust that man and who he likes and his favoritism. And, you know, we saw it with Cam Akers 2 years ago at the end of the season where he was a set and forget it RB1. You know what I mean? His usage was 100%. He was getting every carry and he was putting over 25 fantasy points a game. And then the next year he just didn't play. And I think Kyron Williams is probably safe for this year. But like I said, if Sean McVay is still that coach, I don't like him past this year because he doesn't care. He will find another 4th round running back and he'll just like throw him in there and give him 100% snap share. And it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like VC for him is out the window. He just wants somebody that's a grinder. It's going to go in there and run. And I think, like I said, I think Kyron Williams is good this year, but I think he's lower in my dynasty ranks because I don't trust him moving out this year alone.
I am a little surprised, Joe, and you had, you know, your Denver Broncos, you know, Javonte Williams a little bit lower than I anticipated, and ETN a little lower. What was your thoughts on that?
Really, you think I had Javonte low, huh?
Well, I still haven't said him. I don't think Mike has either, unless he's not in Mike's top 24.
Who's that?
Javonte Williams.
Oh, I said him. He's 16 for me. Yeah, he's the first.
Oh, he did. Oh, wow. Whoops. I guess I'm the highest on Javonte then. Maybe I should be the one explaining myself here.
I put him at 13, and I felt that was kind of high. You know, we talked about running backs, you know, when we're removed from the ACLs. I think he's going to have a better 2024 season. But, you know, Sean, I do think he's going to get the heavy workload, but Sean Payton likes to use more than one back. We see Jaleel McLaughlin getting some looks. So I was hesitant to kind of move him up past that.
Very interesting. Well, I'll save my thoughts when we go over to the next tier because I'll be saying his name in the near distant future here. So, guys, who do we got in tier 2? Joe, starting with you.
Yeah, my tier 2. So 9, I've got Saquon Barkley. Number 8, I've got Devon Achane. 7, Kyron Williams. At number 6, I've got James Cook. And at 5, I've got Jonathan Taylor.
What? James Cook at 6. All right.
Yeah.
Mike, what do we got?
All right. So 11, I have Saquon Barkley. 10, I have James Cook. 9, I have Rachaad White. 8 is Devon. I'll go 8. So that's where I'll cut that tier right there. And 8 is Devon Achane.
Okay. Interesting. All right, so my tier 2 here. Number 9, I've got running back Javonte Williams. Number 8, running back Saquon Barkley. Number 7, running back Travis Etienne. Number 6, running back Josh Jacobs. And number 5, running back Jonathan Taylor. Joe, I gotta hear a little bit. James Cook, number 6. That's high praise here. What's your thoughts there on James Cook at number 6?
Yeah, I mean, I like James Cook a lot, and I just feel like with Brady staying in at offensive coordinator, he was the one that really got this run game going for the Bills. So, you know, even though I felt like he was underutilized, looking at his stats, I mean, he had 237 carries for over 1,100 yards, and then he had 44 receptions for 445. Like to see him get more touchdowns, but I feel like with him being somewhat underutilized in my mind and still getting all that utilization and yardage, if Brady comes in and wants to establish that run game like he did the second half of this year, I feel like there's still room for James Cook to grow.
I mean, Mike, you are probably thinking similarly. You had him, I want to say, like 8 or 9, if my memory serves me right.
For James Cook?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have James Cook at 10.
Okay, 10.
Yeah, so I mean, I like James Cook this year. James Cook's also one of those guys that is like in a Kyron Williams mentality for me, where like I think James Cook is safe, but he's also the build and the type of running back that might only have like 3 years on a team. I think that there's a good chance they are probably looking at somebody to possibly take his role or complement his role. And I don't think he's his ceiling is safe. I think he's probably going to have a really good year this year, and then it might get a little murky. Like he might be falling back into like I don't know, like into that Swift range for me, where he might, he's got the talent, he's good, but I don't know if he's ever going to be like the number one guy on a team. I think he's going to be like a split role, like split backfield kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not really that second guy established right now. Latavius Murray is going to be gone. I don't know if Ty Johnson will be back or if he'll be relevant enough going forward. So it could just be James Cook. I think they'll probably bring somebody else in. But I mean, I can understand your logic. I mean, Joe, if he continues to go the way that Joe Brady was running the offense, that could be very beneficial. But he was kind of taking his offense, in the middle of the season. What's it going to look like as he develops the offseason? Does he bring some other pieces to the offense that we just didn't see yet? But I just, when I first saw it, that was pretty high. I was surprised by that. I'm a little bit lower than you guys on Devon Achane. I had him at 14. Mike, I think you might have had him at the highest amongst us three. He's a darling right now in Dynasty.
Yeah, he has the explosive trait where he just like won't need the usage that these other guys need. Excuse me. Like I don't think he needs like 10 carries a game to produce like RB1 numbers. Like he doesn't. That's what makes him so valuable. Is like these other guys like Rachaad White, James Cook, Kyron Williams. They need to touch the ball like 20 times a game in some capacity to put up like high dynasty numbers. Devon Achane, he can do it in 2 plays if he has to. Like he can he's so dangerous whenever he has the ball in his hands. I want that on my dynasty team. I want that. Like he is going to be somebody that probably has a larger role this year. I don't know what Mostert's going to look like in that whole backfield, but they don't have the cap room or the ability to bring anybody else in. So he's safe. Dude, I love him. Like I think if he can stay healthy, dude, I could not like pass up Devon Achane in like the 2nd, 3rd round in a dynasty startup. I think I have to take him definitely like in the Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne role, like that range right there, wherever those guys are going. He's like on the cusp of that tier though. That's where I'm going to get into next right here.
Yeah.
I've already previewed that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. To me, I think the hype train is too much for this guy. I understand what you're saying. He doesn't have to have I'm trying to turn a new leaf this year. Joe knows this. I'm very much on the usage train. I'm all about opportunities. But their explosiveness matters too, and I want to acknowledge that. But with his injury ability or his durability. And then you've got, I think Mostert and Wilson are still going to be relevant on this team. And here's the thing. This is my, conspiracy hat here. If Mike McDaniel doesn't, whether you think he's on the hot seat or not, if the event that he's no longer there in the future, I don't know if I still like Devon Achane with another head coach in there. I think he is a perfect pairing with what's going on with Mike McDaniel. If somebody else comes in, I don't feel that as well. So when we're thinking about dynasty, we're talking about years in the future. Maybe I need a little bit more in the present. But as far as this future, I'm a little bit more concerned than you guys are.
Cool, I mean, that is fair because, I mean, the Dolphins offense fits him to a T. I mean, it's an absolute track meet, and he's a part of that. And that is part of the intrigue and why I like him so much. But I do feel like even if he was with a different offense, I mean, the guy just has so much talent and just that breakout ability that he has. I feel like other teams would figure out how to get him involved and still do well. But I agree. I mean, if the Dolphins definitely give him the best situation.
Well, what even happens when Tyreek Hill supposedly is going to retire in 2025? I mean, he changes that whole offense immensely. I mean, what happens to that offense after Tyreek Hill goes?
I think it's going to be just fine. I don't think that they have to change it dramatically where, Waddle is like a lesser Tyreek Hill currently. And I think that's fine. And I don't know. I think Etienne would be like doing well on most teams right now. I don't think that it's generally a scheme fit. He's explosive, and that explosive factor would do well on any offense except for the Patriots, but any other offense that would do extremely well. I think anybody's thirsty for a playmaker, and I don't know if like his plays are more scheme or just him like taking a hold of the play itself. Like people just can't tackle him. They can't catch up to him. He is ahead of the second tier right there before, you know what I mean? Like most of the time, nobody's even close to him. So it's an open offense. It's good, but I think we're giving that offense a little too much credit when it comes to like Devin Etienne's ability to break it out and break loose for a big play.
So going over to our final tier, gentlemen. Joe, start us off. Who do you got in tier 1?
Yeah, number 4, I've got Christian McCaffrey. Number 3, I've got Bijan Robinson. Number 2 is Breece Hall. And at number 1, I've got Jahmyr Gibbs.
Wow. All right, Mike, what do you got?
All right, so I failed the project here. So what I'm going to do is I have two more tiers left somehow, some way. So I have 2 more tiers. I'm going to go over this one right here. This is like my could have been like elite tier, but didn't quite get there. So it's Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, and then Jonathan Taylor. So that's right there. And then elite tier, we're going Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, and then Breece Hall.
Okay. All right. So for me, I've got number 4, Christian McCaffrey, 3, Breece Hall, 2, Jahmyr Gibbs, and number 1, Bijan Robinson. So sounds like, guys, not much of a difference between us as far as the elite guys, just a little bit of a different scramble. Joe, you had Jahmyr Gibbs number 1. Mike had Breece Hall number 1, and then I had Bijan Robinson number 1. So let's make the case right now. Joe, why is Jahmyr Gibbs number 1?
Yeah, I like Jahmyr Gibbs at number 1 just because get the continuity with the Detroit Lions offense. Ben Johnson staying, Jared Goff's there. He's running behind one of the best offensive lines in football. And I was comparing his stats and Bijan's, and with he only played 15 games, and his stat line was very similar. I do like Bijan's talent, but then there's also this mystique almost what's going on with the Falcons. You got Zach Robinson coming over for the Rams. What's the offense going to look like? And then also, ultimately, who's going to be the quarterback for the Falcons? And that's why I didn't want to go with him with my number 1, and I put Jahmyr Gibbs up ahead of him.
All right, Mike, what's the case for Breece Hall at number 1?
I think Breece Hall just I think he should have got comeback player of the year, like hands down, because of the way that he came back from that injury. People forget that he came off of a major, major injury. Like that was not just a little tear or anything like that. Like he had like complete surgery on his knee, you know what I mean? And he came back and he was a top 5 running back this year in fantasy. Like that's incredible. You know what I mean? That's like Adrian Peterson status, like coming back off of that major injury and just having a top 5 season. And that was doing it with like I don't know, man, he had Zach Wilson and he had all these different quarterbacks that like they had no passing attack at all on that team. And every team knew that Breece Hall was going to run it up the gut. They're like, this dude's going to run. We can stack all the boxes we want, and they can't stop him. They could not stop him at all without a passing attack. So just insert Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to have to respect that passing game. It's going to open up the lane for Breece Hall exponentially. They don't have any cap room on that team. Breece Hall has no competition. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know who's going to be the backup there. Ty Johnson, like who is going to back up Breece Hall? It doesn't matter. Breece Hall is going to get all that usage. Like remember I think it was week 17 where he got like 30 carries. They were like, oh, this is like, I think that's what it's going to be like. He's just going to get like 25 carries a game because I think there is no workhorse role in this top tier besides Breece Hall. Breece Hall owns that backfield. You know what I mean? Like there's nobody in that backfield. Even like Bijan Robinson has Tyler Algier or whoever. Like, you know what I mean? Like Cordell Patterson's getting like 7 carries a game. I don't think anybody's going to get 7 carries a game besides Breece Hall on that team. I think he's going to get the lion's share of the carries. And if he's healthy, I think he's a set it, forget it, top tier RB1 for the next 2-3 years, if that.
Yeah, I got to say, I disrespected Breece Hall last year. Breece, I'm sorry. I thought that you weren't going to be as good coming back from your ACL. I was wrong.
With your number 3 ranking, I think, too, though.
What'd you say?
Still kind of think you disrespected him by putting him at 3.
Oh, please. Come on. I think he's just fine at number 3. Here's the thing. I debated having him higher. I really did because, Mike's not wrong. I mean, he had an unbelievable season coming back from an ACL injury. He's going to be 23 years old. He's heading into his 3rd season. He's got 2 years left on his contract. It'll make him 25. Hard to speculate as to whether he'd stay with the Jets or what have you. I went with Bijan Robinson. Look, maybe I'm still into the hype on this guy, but I think he is the best or can be the best all-purpose back in the NFL. Now that the stash, Arthur Smith, is no longer there, I think he's actually going to get the lion's shares of the opportunities. I think Tyler Algier is going to be phased out. I think it's going to be Bijan Robinson as the main guy. I mean, he already had 86 targets last year. I mean, that's pretty good, especially for some out there who didn't think he was a receiving running back, but that's for another day. But here's the thing. I think that he had only had 8 total touchdowns. He had 4 rushing, 4 receiving. I think Bijan Robinson, if he can get that a lot higher. I mean, obviously, look at Breece Hall, too. He only had 9 total touchdowns, 5 rushing. So if they can get some more touchdowns in there, either one of them could be really good. I think you can't go wrong with any one of the 3, to be honest, but I'm going to go with Bijan. So, guys, that wraps up our top 24 Dynasty rankings with tiers. Hopefully, for those who are following along, you're enjoying this episode here. Mike, thanks so much for joining the show. Where can others find your great work?
Yeah, so you can follow me at NerdBoi Takes. I also have a Discord that is pretty much open to the public where we are putting all our rankings, Dynasty content, videos, all our latest pods. And then we are doing a rookie profile series on Dynasty Degens that is running twice a week. So tomorrow we are dropping Adonai Mitchell. So Adonai Mitchell with Jagger, who is Fantasy Blue Chip on Twitter. And then next week we have Matt Waldman and JCJ Dynasty joining me. So we're going to cover a bunch of different prospects next week that I think you definitely have to tune in on our YouTube and check out.
That's awesome. If you don't currently subscribe to Dynasty Degens, we highly recommend you go over there and hit that subscribe button. Mike, thanks again for joining the show. We're just starting up with our Dynasty rankings and tiers. It was running backs today. We're going to be doing quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends, and some IDP down the road. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.